Japan, ranked 24th in the world by FIFA, didn't make their debut on the world's largest stage until France '98, but have qualified for every tournament since, and were joint hosts in 2002. In the most recent tournament, they would become the first ever Asian nation to beat a team from South America with their opening triumph over Colombia. France 1998 was notable for it being Japan's first ever qualification, and perhaps for the fact that they did manage at least one goal, although a disappointing debut it would turn out to be. World Cup perennials Argentina would be their opening match, but then they played third place finishers Croatia in the second game, and this wouldn't prove to leave them much hope against Jamaica in the third game, even if they scored their first goal against the Jamaicans. But they would be back. Hosts in 2002 meant automatic qualification, and this was not a fluke, as they were able to play well and get a great result versus the Belgians, a draw in their first match. Follow that with wins versus Russia and Tunisia, and the Blue Samurai were into the round of 16 for the first time in their history. Unfortunately, Turkey were blessed by Allah that year in an amazing run all the way to third place, and were not to be outdone, leaving the Japanese watching the rest of the tournament. 4 years on, it would be a disappointing opening match in Germany versus the Australians, but the draw in the second match versus the Croatians would give them hope for advancement from their third match. However, pretty much the one team you don't ever want to see in a World Cup awaited, unless you're Germany, of course. Brazil would thrash them in from the east and send them packing. South Africa 2010 came along. Enter Kazuki Honda. His might from the free kick spot was a wonder to behold and a memory not easily forgotten. Announcing himself with the only goal versus the Cameroon team, the Japanese were buoyant going into a tough match against the Dutch. The narrow 1-0 loss couldn't keep them down, and the stunning free kick versus Denmark from Honda was enough to see them through to the next round. It would be an absolute battle versus the Paraguayans. 0-0 to penalties would see the dream end in heartbreak for the Samurai Warriors. 4 years on, the heat down in Brazil might have been an issue for the Islanders. Tough loss to the Ivory Coast, despite a goal from the hero of the previous tournament, Honda, to start the campaign. The draw against Greece left their hopes hanging by a thread, with a tough match against Colombia, where they would be completely blasted apart and go crashing out in disappointing fashion 4-1. The most recent edition of the tournament started out with a little revenge for the Japanese facing their nemesis from the previous cup. The Colombians had dashed their hopes last time around, but sweet revenge was theirs with the 2-1 win in the opening match of the tournament. A wild draw with Senegal 2-2 left them in a favorable position going into the third match against Poland. Despite losing 1-0 in this third game, the Japanese would move on to the knockout stages. Call it bad luck, call it what you will, to face the mighty Belgians in a thrilling 3-2 loss. While quite dramatic, the ghosts of the previous tournament were thrown off, and Japanese heads were held high in pride, giving the strong Belgium side everything they could handle. The men from the Far East played for the badge and made sure they will not be overlooked in the upcoming tournament in Qatar. Speaking of, a truly tasty group awaits the Blue Samurai in the desert. The German juggernaut always bring their mean faces to the World Cup, and the Costa Ricans are worth a strong run. The Spanish conquistadors will be confident of their advancement as well, and it will be up to the Japanese to spoil dreams and cut their way to the top in this group that might be a surprise in just a few short days to come.